Chapter 101, we covered, how we deal with this in the United States. But when you mention this to people, they say, oh, well, then that'll just put America at a disadvantage. And then other countries will just go ahead and do all these polluting things and then sell their products cheaper here in the United States. So it doesn't really solve any problems. And so that's what Chapter 102 is. It is a border adjustment so that countries that importers that are shipping products into the United States will be responsible for the cost of the carbon if it had as if it had been produced here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. 102 is the carbon border fee adjustment, and Section 9911 is the part that states its purpose. It's to protect animal, plant, and human life and health, to conserve exhaustible natural resources by preventing carbon leakage, and to facilitate the creation of international agreements. That last part, goes to what the European Union is rolling out now. They are putting a carbon border fee into place over the next couple of years, so that, again, to stop the dumping of carbon intense products onto their markets by countries and places that don't have an equivalent fee. And so we would do the same thing here. In a few years, the United States would more than likely be subject to these carbon border fees adjustments when we sell products to the European Union. And so it's another reason to go ahead and put the carbon tax in place here in the United States, so that that money then goes to help the United States as opposed to being paid over in Europe. So Section 9911, this is the carbon border fee adjustment. Again, we've already covered what are some of the carbon intensive products, and they'll be directed to impose a fee equal to the total carbon fee, which would have accumulated upon the greenhouse gas content of the imported product if it had been produced domestically. So that's what the secretary will be setting up. And then to kind of keep the foreign trade balance, there's a provision in subsection D for a refund on exports from the United States, similar to how exports were exempt from the value added tax talked about previously. And so, so there'll be a refund on exports up to are equal to 75% of the carbon fees. Section 9912 deals with the administration, exactly how these things are supposed to be worked out. And these sorts of things are a little more complicated. So the carbon border fee adjustment will actually take 2 years to implement. So it has an effective date of October 30th, 2024. Imports to the territories of the United States. So if we're sending things from the United States to the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, or places like that are territories of the United States, then they would not be subject to this. Section 9913 deals with how the border fee adjustments are collected. You run into an issue under international law if you make this a tax, an import tax. And so so instead the workaround is having the border fee adjustment, anything above the administrative costs of implementing it, go to the Green Climate Fund, which is a United Nations fund set up to address climate change. And so countries can set up their border fee adjustments this way so that they don't run into issues with border taxes and tariffs. Section 9914 deals with the international treaty negotiations and treaties. Again, making sure that there's a framework for cooperation with other countries, making sure that we're working together to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions to 0% of 2010 levels by 2050, and make adjustments that respect the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. And the secretary can suspend this when we've hit our targets, and the secretary shall review these every 5 years. And then at the end of section 512, we've got a little more boilerplate after adding those 2 chapters. So we update to section 44QF of the Internal Revenue Code, clarifies that the amendments, that this goes into effect on October 30th, 2022, except that the carbon fee doesn't apply until 11 months later, November 30th, 2023, and clarifies that there's no preemption of state law. It's a floor, not a ceiling, and so states can raise the bar as well. With that, next Chair, I think that concludes my testimony on Chapter 102.
Thank you. So you'd mentioned a 75% refund on exports, and so that is to say that if you produce something that is exported, if you produce something in the United States that is then exported somewhere else, you're only paying 1/4 of the carbon tax that you normally would. Is that effectively what that means?
That's correct. Keep us more competitive with the nations that don't have don't have as strict pollution taxes.